All right, we are live on Twitch and YouTube. Hello, everybody. Let's make this happen.
Hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we begin each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Greetings.
Ruben Bressler.
Oh, hi. Good evening. How are you?
It's just been a few days, buddy, since you and I
know. I've
out,
seen too much of you already.
Chilling, eating meals together.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel like you guys bonded a little bit. Like, if our top 10s this week is any indication, you guys really had a connection.
Right there.
A little bit. I mean,
we had a connection for a little while anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we used to see each other every day, obviously, when we worked together. You know, and then now I see your big ugly mug twice a week.
Jesus.
So it's not like it was that big of a change. Although I guess we were staying in the same hotel, eating a bunch of meals together. We did hang out quite a bit, a lot in terms of total hours over the course of the few days up there in Victoria.
But we got too spiky. That was the problem.
We did. That was the feedback from chat, was we were too spiky against each other, which I thought was hilarious, because you guys that watch the show know that this is just how we act. We just dagger each other, but then on stream it doesn't translate, and it just looks like we actively dislike each other, which I thought was adorable.
I was in the chat basically heckling you guys, where I was there watching your game, and then I was seeing chat, level these sort of accusations of, he seems really grumpy, he's a little too serious, and I was like, I get to be the good one.
Right.
Yes.
It's goody two-shoes over there in chat.
That's right. Making us look bad.
It was like that card, I think it's called Nahiri's Machinations, where she's, pointing the mob, and I'm like, yes, go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, maybe it just wasn't understood. Like, Ruben and I come from the old school PTQ grind. Like,
yeah.
We would go to tournaments, we grind them out, and, when you're playing Magic, you're playing to win.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. But the first big is the pre-release. You can go watch it right now on Loading Ready Runs channel. They just posted both the part 1 and part 2 of the sort of the post pre-release thoughts and recollections. Ruben, I saw your bit, which is really cool, and mine was posted the day before, which is awesome. I love how they integrated clips and stuff. That was really sweet.
That was very cool.
That was super cool. And it's nice to kind of, I think it really did give you a nice sort of idea of what Rivals is doing in the format, and talk about that just a little bit. I think that Rivals is a terrific follow-up set. Rivals is the set that is the clearest to me of, like, if we just didn't have to bother with small sets, and they could have just gone ahead and put all of the guys that the harbingers, whatever they're called again, the ones that go get
the forerunners.
The forerunners, thank you. The forerunners and the Lord and some of those really cool pump spells and burn spells. Like, if that could have just been in the entire set, and that could have just been what Ixalan was, would have been terrific. Because that's kind of what you got now. And you can see that Band-Aid most clearly because they're reprinting stuff in Rivals that's already in Ixalan. Yeah. So you're using up literally like precious card slots. There's only so many Magic cards you can make, in a year at any one time, but you are instead reprinting like, Legion Conquistadors or whatever. And so it's like, that could have been like a new card. Or that,
could have been a new set, sure.
Yeah, it could have just been something different. But overall, I think the power level has definitely gone up. I think the synergy's gone up. I think when it works, like it doesn't, you don't feel like you have quite as many, like, I have to play this unplayable jank because that's kind of where I'm stuck. There's just better things, and because there's better stuff overall, the decks are better. There was more cohesion and whatnot. I loved it. I think if you liked Ixalan, you're going to love Rivals of Ixalan, particularly the Limited. I think it improved quite a bit. A lot of people had a lot of problems with Ixalan Limited, feeling you were a little too boxed in. And I think that you're still in that box of what tribe am I essentially leaning towards. But man, Ascend plays fantastically.
Doesn't?
Oh, it super does.
Yeah.
And while it's a small design space, it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That is the one thing about the small set that is all right, is that you can take a keyword like Ascend and have it be a featured thing, whereas it really wouldn't work in a big set standing alone. I'm sure that the viewers remember I was not big on Ascend as a keyword. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of it. And then over the course of the weekend, actually playing with it, it plays really well. Right. CVM had a great explanation during our match where it was basically the ability gets more complicated the more you know. If you don't know much, if you're a new player, it's very easy. And that's the kind of keyword you want, is the more complexity there is, the more you know about the game. And I thought that was a fabulous explanation of the keyword, and I actually don't mind it so much anymore.
I really enjoyed the graphic. They put this little golden glow around you guys when you had the graphic, and I was like, you know, I wonder, I would love for that to be the standard where, you know, SCG picks that up, or if GPs pick that up and there's just this glow around. I think that was a neat little way to, you know, because that's something you have to think about, you know, when you know, how you're going to communicate poison counters or how you're going to communicate other things. And so I'd love for that to be the standard, you know.
Well, shout out to user Sheth DMMD, who give me props for forgetting the giveaway.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I have totally 100% forgot it this week. You know, sometimes
if anybody's been using the bingo cards, I believe that is a spot on your card.
That one qualifies. Yeah.
That one does qualify as forgetting what I was doing. Okay, cool. So I am putting the link in the Twitch chat where I can. Ruben's going to have to somehow translate it so YouTube will let us do it. We are giving away a set of the Cool Stuff Games pre-release items that you can get by going to any Cool Stuff Games store this weekend and play in the Rivals of Ixalan pre-release. However, if you can't go, it's an awesome playmat, and it is a metal gold double-sided dinosaur on one side, pirate on the other token. Super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like it a whole bunch, and I would love to send a set of these anywhere around the world. So links there in the chat, and people I'm sure can help repost it later on. So
we will own little golden glow.
Yeah, so there's 7 less minutes to go. You know, enter that. So get to it. Let's make it happen.
Get on it.
Right. We will choose our winner at midnight, where I may or may not remember it all. Just flip a coin. But the pre-release itself, being able to go up to Canada and hang out at the moon base, their setup is so cool. Like they have a legitimate studio. They have multiple studios with all the lights and all the equipment and all the stuff. And as where, you know, SCG had sort of like the one room, like they've got 3 different studios and another couple offices.
Right.
Like
they're primarily a production house. That's their thing, is that's what they're primarily doing. And so definitely to see the big studio that has, you know, the Scheherazade and all the board games and like all the big setup, and then they have a podcasting room, and then they've got a third room just for streaming mostly, and then a couple offices. It's just a delightful place to go. I wish for nothing more than for everyone to get to experience the moon base in the way that we got to. Loading Ready Run has really figured it out. They've got quite the little cottage industry up there. So for you, those of you aspiring content creators up there, I wish for nothing more than for you guys to get that opportunity.
Yeah, up in Victoria, and all the LLR people were absolutely terrific.
They're just delightful.
It was great. And so kudos to all those guys. And yeah, so the pre-release, absolutely fantastic. I learned a bunch. I love the set. I think it's sweet. I also got to hang out in the podcast room is also where they film Checkpoint, which is like one of my favorite shows of all time. I love Checkpoint, and they make that every week there. So
that's coming up on like what, 300 episodes of Checkpoint? Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
They've been doing it since back in the Penny Arcade days, and then they just kept doing it once Penny Arcade stopped doing the third-party content. That is just like a huge staple of the gaming community, and so to be able to see that room was definitely a treat for sure.
Oh man, super neat. So we're gonna move on here to Gathering the Townsfolk, where we have plenty of stuff to talk about this week, as it turns out. But one of the coolest things to come out of this week was coverage, and coverage in particular. And it was awesome because I actually got to catch this live at the time. But essentially, Patrick Sullivan is an incredible mind in this game. Like he is a treasure. He is a delight. We are privileged to have this man in our community, because when he makes observations that are so clear and so easy to understand once he kind of explains it to you. Because one of the cards that I was obviously excited to play with was Ravenous Chupacabra. This card is 2 black, 2 generic mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you destroy target creature an opponent controls. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the best card basically in Rivals Limited, by the way. Yep. It just kills everything. No matter how good the mythic you're talking about is, either it costs 1 billion mana or this thing kills it. So, and also it was like super mythic as an uncommon. I think it was like one.
We only opened like one,
two maybe out of everybody, which was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, we opened more of the Phoenix than we opened of the Chupacabra across all 8 of the players.
Yeah. So, and at Basic Mountain on Twitter, where you can also see he has a few follow-ups there, and we'll talk about them. But the point was, essentially, that Ravenous Chupacabra is bad. It is actively bad for Standard because it does so much for so little. It squashes the idea that you could ever tap out for something. In particular, he kind of brings up Baneslayer Angel. Baneslayer Angel was amazing when it was out, and it didn't have this type of problem because he didn't have anything what essentially is a Flame Tongue Kavu. This is the best Flame Tongue Kavu like ever. Flame Tongue Kavu, you could at least say, well, if it's on an empty board, it kills itself, or you could use something with protection from red, or you could do something with that dealt, has 5 damage or whatever. Well, there isn't protection anymore. There's only hexproof, so that matters about Merfolk tokens or whatever. And then you have this thing which has so much value coming in and out. And he's talking about these days, it's Long Tusk Cub, and then it's all the Scarab God, Bristling Hydra, which, by the way, the Scarab God and Ravenous Chupacabra is going to be a thing. Yeah. It's going to be stupidly crazy good. Long Tusk Cub, beyond the Bristling Hydra, which you can't kill, Glory Bringer, which gives you haste, Rogue Refiner and Virtuoso, which do immediate value, give you immediate things. There's no investment and there's no risk. Like the new Azor, right? Azor the Longbringer or whatever, that card's super cool, and we'll see actual 0% play in Standard because who wants to tap out for something and cross their fingers? Like, they're just going to Chupacabra the stupid thing. That's what they're going to do.
And another point of PSulli's argument is that if Chupacabra isn't the most powerful card in Standard, that's a problem too, because that means that the development of how Standard has all gone towards the blue-white approach of the Second Sons or blue-black God Pharaoh's Gift kind of decks, where removal is so tertiary and just matters so little that the best removal spell doesn't matter anymore, and that is arguably worse.
Yeah, and to be clear, I mean, Patrick is a game designer in his spare time. He in addition to being an excellent commentator and a brilliant mind in the game, he does this for a living. So, this isn't a case of just, we're in a community with a lot of outspoken people, and this isn't a case of just some rogue Redditor who wants to get something off his chest. Patrick knows what he's talking about, and so when a fellow game designer, calls this into question, I'm inclined to listen. And when I heard that this rant had happened, I was under the impression it was very unhinged and whatever, and he was actually quite logical and quite sound, and he posed a lot of really good arguments. And I appreciate the fact that he mentioned the issue of that you're not invested in things, and that if you don't care what happens to your things, what kind of game is that? You're just sort of playing things and you're like, I'm fine with you killing this because I get a Thopter out of it, or I get energy out of it. And it's not like other cards where you genuinely don't want something to happen to it. And he also mentioned that when you're building your decks, you don't have any restrictions. You can essentially do whatever you want. And, when you're building things, you mentioned the Flame Tongue Kavu thing, and even the thing about Necrotal. When you were playing with Necrotal, there's just limitations on both sides that both players have to think of. And this Standard has not been good for actual years now, people. And so, there's definitely something different in the way that these sets are being made. And I really worry that there's no feedback there. And maybe it's that sets take so long to roll out that maybe we're eventually going to see some change, but I knew a lot of people that were looking at this set to be a fix for Standard, and I'm afraid that that's just not going to be the case.
It's just weird how this kind of comes out of left field and just wrecks so much of what could be interesting. It's like, oh man, that's a cool card. Doesn't matter. Chupacabra's going to kill it. Like, oh, that's a cool interaction. Whatever. Like, oh, my Merfolk deck is sweet. Yeah, then your Lord's dead. Like, and then I'm going to reanimate it and kill your other Lord that you also drew because now you're playing with a bunch of garbage Merfolk because they're only good when you have your super cool Lords and powerful Legends out. Like, so, whether you're getting a cantrip, whether you're getting a creature, whether you're getting something always coming and going, you're always getting energy. And essentially, it's like, Azor is neat, but Torrential Gearhulk exists. Why would I just not use that instead?
Yeah.
He also mentioned the big hole in that this is supposed to be a tribal set, and it would be one thing if you made this card a vampire or you made this card a merfolk, but you go into this block thinking that one of the tribes are going to see some major play, and then you release a beast horror. Like, why is that not even? It might be acceptable, and you might be able to deal with it if it fit in. If maybe each tribe had their own, and maybe they were opposite. So like maybe the merfolk killed everything but blue things or green things, and the dinosaur kill everything, whatever. That might have been cute, but it not only is bad from a power level standpoint and everything. It all flavor wise, it's just like why?
It's like the dog. The dog is really that's your best creature. The dog
Right.
in the
His discussion
tribal
of the
block?
flavor. His discussion of the flavor of this all-powerful, millennia-old Sphinx taking out the trash one night, and accidentally there's this mangy cur out back, and it defeats him in combat. Was just amazing.
It's ridiculous. And for those who are like, well, maybe it might see play. No. It's already been tested by Brad and by Brad and forgive me. Brad and Todd, sorry. Todd Anderson and Brad are already filming videos with this thing. It's already terrific. It's already, see them play in the energy decks or whatever. They're just playing black now, as they have been with the glint sleeve siphoner or whatnot. So yeah, the whole bit is just, it goes right into those decks. It just crushes so many cool things. And Magic's been like this for a long time, where it's just like you're going to get all of your value coming and going. Don't bother like trying to do something neat, synergistic. Don't bother trying to invest in something you have to tap out for, because no, it has to do something immediately or it is terrible.
So I have kind of a radical opinion on this, and this might be a little unpopular, but that's fine. We talk about on this show, and specifically I do. People love to bring up the metric of fun, and this might be a tinfoil hat theory, so bear with me. But people don't like having their spells get countered. People don't like having their things get killed. They don't like having their lands destroyed. And when I see where Standard is right now, where everything has an ETB ability, everything has energy can't be taken away from you. And so many things have, can't be countered, and counter spells are so bad right now. And, I feel that a lot of what we're seeing is sort of a reaction to using fun as a metric, saying, well, it feels bad when things die, and it feels bad when this happened. And it's just like, and I've been an opponent of fun being a big metric, and so when I see things like this happening, the first thing I think of is this is what happens when, you start catering to those people, when you start telling people and you start listening to, do you know what I'm trying to say? Where it's like, if everything feels bad and you're trying to get rid of the feel bads, well, the cards don't work and the format is bad, and help me piece it. I feel like it's not communicating.
Well, I'll give a follow up from Patrick himself. Because he went on Twitter today and he says, regarding Chupacabra, the call to action isn't, quote, don't make removal. That's dumb. He didn't say that. I said that. It is, quote, make the powerful removal care about things. Fatal Push is both more powerful and a more appropriate design to make powerful, because it has walls. It has different things. Ultimate Price was a card, and if they played a multicolored creature, oh crap. There's no sort of differentiation. Now, he keeps going. He says, adjacent to that, try to prop up designs that care about risk and investment. Some of that involves making the Baneslayers, quote, good enough, but a lot of it involves how the answers are crafted. And Brian Kibler, good old Kibler, jumps in and says, to put it another way, if everything kills everything, then all that matters is the rate at which we exchange resources, not the actual cards we choose to play. Pro Tour champion Craig Wesco jumped in with, agree with you in principle, but, quote, Destroy actually cares about a lot of things right now. Hazaret's indestructible, Scarab God returns to hand, Glorybringer has haste, Hydra has hexproof, seems like it's only good at killing Cub or catching back up against Rogue Refiner. To which Patrick says, part of the point is that the Night Veil Specters and Desecration Demons are unplayable, and this exacerbates that. So you just can't do a lot of interesting stuff. It's just like, okay, this is the most hyper efficient I can do to trade my resources, and you're doing the most hyper you can to trade your resources, and we'll see where we end up.
It's not. I don't think that's fun personally. So
agreed. I mean, I would like for Azor to see Standard play outside of just getting as a one of in the God Pharaoh's Gifts decks. I would like for that to be the kind of win condition that control decks want to try to play. Maybe not all the time, maybe not in huge numbers, maybe it's not the most dominant force, but to see someone tap 6 mana and play an Azor, I think that would be good for Magic.
Yeah, and also for flavor, it's Azor. Like you want it to have the impact that Avacyn did. You want it to be that Avacyn was a very crucial part of the Shadows over Innistrad story. And can you imagine if she were bad? Like what?
Right.
When you have a pivotal character like that being bad, or when you have a format where that card can't thrive, I think that's a sign that something's not good there.
I mean, for as much crap as we gave Emrakul, the Promised End, at least that was a powerful thing to be doing on, theoretically, the most powerful thing on the plane.
Absolutely.
So I was happy with that. What I'm not happy with in a lot of this is, I mean, if the Chupacabra were the thing that made it to the top of the tower first and made it to the Golden City in the storyline, that's different. But this is sort of just like a kind of, like Patrick touched on, this is kind of just a throwaway card. Like, oh, Chupacabras exist. We had a Chupacabra in regular Ixalan that killed things when you explored. It wasn't particularly good or particularly central to the story. That's what Chupacabras should do, is they should be okay, and they should be fine, but they shouldn't be the most powerful thing that you can be doing in Standard.
It's rivals of Chupacabra is what it is.
It basically is.
Thanks, Mr. Lubufu. Also, shout out to Major Band Geek, because remember this, and I certainly remember this. You remember back in the day, there was the Vapor Snag test?
Yes.
It was, I Vapor Snag your thing, and if it didn't do anything, you're an idiot. And so it's like, well, I can't play anything that sucks against Vapor Snag, because if I don't get value, I'm never getting value. So I either had to play, Geist of Saint Traft, so it wouldn't get bounced or whatever.
Or Thrun.
Cheap things that had effects when they entered the battlefield, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, even now, Winding Constrictor isn't even seeing that much play, because it doesn't do anything the turn you play it. And that's like one of the most undercosted creatures ever. It won a Pro Tour, and it's just like not seeing any play anymore. And it's for this style of card, obviously not for Chupacabra particularly, but it's because the things that pass the Chupacabra test already are in the most powerful strategy, because this is how cards have been designed recently. And so this is just going to exacerbate those 4-color energy, 4-color control, mid-range, mix-up kind of decks.
It just doesn't feel like the people who were working on or designing the set or made this happen didn't live in a world where Flametongue Kavu existed. And it just invalidates things. And it just sucks, because no matter how excited I'm going to get over stuff in Dominaria, well, does it die to Chupacabra? Is it just going to do nothing when it enters the battlefield?
Even Harness Lightning. There was a graphic going around Twitter when the new Lords were released. There were people that were excited because, oh, we finally got a Vampire Lord and we got ourselves a little Merfolk. And someone had made a graphic of like all the Lords are all like the spiciest cards, and then a big Harness Lightning in the middle that was like, hey guys. And it was like, it just feels bad. And, we all have our theories as to, the root of the problem, but there definitely is a problem.
Yeah, and there's also there's a ban list update coming next week.
Deathrite Shaman, 1-1.
You want it unbanned in Modern? That's an interesting opinion, Aaron.
No.
Pray tell, why would Aaron Campbell want Deathrite Shaman unbanned in Modern? Oh, you mean the other thing.
I don't want it unbanned anywhere. I want it banned in Legacy. So I made a vow. I think
I think that Legacy is the least likely. I mean, they said that Modern's not going to get touched with the banned list up. We're talking about the banned list update now.
Okay, well, let me ask you, let's play this, Ruben. You're a gambling man, so let me pose you this. So
unban Earthcraft. That's what's happening every time. I'm gonna say it every time until it happens. Unban Earthcraft.
Okay.
Unban Earthcraft.
Okay. You're a gambling man, so let's play the odds game. So what do you think has better odds of happening? Deathrite being banned in Legacy, or Attune the Ether being banned in Standard? If you had to bet on them, which one would be more likely to happen?
If I had to bet on which one's more likely, Attune.
Yeah?
I think that Attune is the more likely. I think that Standard would just be a more interesting place if Attune with Ether and Aether Hub were not made, or made in some other fashion. Like if Attune with Ether gave you 1 energy, or Aether Hub came into play taps or something. Those 2 cards make this 4-color mana base possible. I don't think that Deathrite Shaman is oppressive. I think that Legacy is still an interesting and fun place without Deathrite Shaman having to kick it to the curb. But I do think that those are the 2 most likely scenarios, are those 2 things happening, is that Attune gets banned or Death Red Shaman gets banned. Outside of Vintage, because I don't know, I know Vintage expert like you are, so I don't know what gets banned or unbanned in that format, or if anything needs banned or unbanned in that format. And then they've said that Modern's not going to get touched before the Pro Tour, which I'm fine with, because Modern, a lot of the pros I saw tweeting either were like, man, Modern's the worst Pro Tour format possible. There are 30 decks that people can play. And then everyone else is like, yeah, that's why it's the best format. And Ifro said he was going to write an article essentially to that effect, which is that it's probably the most healthy format that's ever existed.
Yeah. And
that makes it a horrendous Pro Tour format, which I agree with the sentiment for, because when you have nothing to aim for, when there's no target, it's a really, it's not a good example of pros being able to figure out a tournament.
Well, I think it's also the fact that Modern is, so with every format, there's sort of a question you have to kind of ask yourself. And I feel like the question with Modern is, when you're getting into Modern, you ask yourself, what am I okay losing to? Because that's really what you need to ask, because there are so many decks and you only have 15 cards. And that was one of the reasons why we didn't see a control deck for the longest time, because you had to be good against the Trons, you had to be good against the Burns, you had to be good against the whatever. And it was just so difficult to cover all of those bases. And, because there are so many different decks out there, there are going to be holes in your plan. I remember when I was playing Ad Nauseam, Infect was our worst matchup, and it was so bad we didn't even sideboard, because we were like, you know what, we've got bigger fish to fry. If I run into that 5% of the meta, okay, you got me, but I can't worry about that, because even if I board, I'm still like only at 20%. And so I can see how when you're trying to be competitive and actually take down a tournament, having holes in your plan is not where you want to be. But unfortunately with Modern, you can't be prepared for everything. And so I can understand why they don't like that, because they want to feel like they can take anything on. And unfortunately with Modern, you may just get paired up against taking turns, well, and what are you going to do? Or you may get paired up against that one guy who won't let eggs die, and you're just like, why are you like this? But that's Modern for you. Or you may get the 8-rat guy, and that just happens to be the hole in your plan.
Well, I think hold on, I want to back up a minute. First of all, I think there's definitely the question of, are they going to ban something in Standard? We've already banned a Mana War, for God's sake. It was stupidly too good, but it was still just a Mana War. We're really talking about banning essentially Lay of the Land and this stuff. And if they go, this is one of those things, I feel like if they're going to ban it, which sounds, I still think is a little on the silly side, but let's just say they're doing it. It definitely feels like they're scorched earth in this thing. It's going to be attuned to Aether. It's going to be Aether Hub. It might be something ridiculous.
Whirler Virtuoso.
Like Whirler Virtuoso, whatever, right? Like scorched earth, just get rid of everything. Just like with Affinity, it was 100% parasitic to the block. There's no good sideboard cards. How did we have this same mistake with another friggin' artifact block? They did the same thing where they made the most amazing, synergistic thing, but they never made the antithesis of it. And why, Shatterstorm should have been in Mirrodin and or Darksteel, because you need those types of controls, and to have nothing that stops energy, actual 0, is ridiculous. Solemnity, yes, can stop you getting them way too late. Okay, nothing just eats energy. Nothing just, pay a mana and all the energy's gone or whatever.
Wait a minute, isn't that even, from a flavor perspective, aren't there things on Kaladesh that consume energy? Any Vorthos in the chat, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't tell me there isn't some creature or some Aetherborn that eats the energy. You can't tell me there was no way to shoehorn that in there.
That was one of the things that Yahenni was able to do, is that every once in a while a Aetherborn is born with the ability to extend its own lifespan by sucking the life out of other Aetherborns or other living things. There's certainly a way that we could have flavored a spell with that ability that Yahenni has to siphon energy away from your opponents.
Yeah, or even just one of the random animals or something.
Right, exactly. The gremlins do it as well. They suck energy out of the vehicles and out of the other stream. Flavor Fleet makes sense. Obviously, that's but I think that they wanted to make it. They wanted it to be a thing to the point where, because there were no stopgaps, and because there was no way to interact with it, it took over. And now nothing can exist outside of energy.
So my question I was trying to frame essentially was, if you think they're going to ban something from Standard, do you feel like they're going to go Scorched Earth and 4 or 5 cards that are absolutely fundamental to the deck? Or do you think they're going to be attuned to Aether? Go away.
I think it's just attuned with Aether. I think that's the problem card. I think that a tune with Aether, and to a lesser extent Aether Hub, I think that they could do both. And if they're going to do both, if they're going to do one, I'd rather they do both, honestly. The problem is that they made Aether Hub a F&M card, so I just don't think it's ever going to be Aether Hub. Like, you can't give an F&M card out that is, like, good. And
I mean, they banned a card that was on an open playmat. I mean...
That's different. That's on SCG. That's not on Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast planned ahead and were like, this is the F&M promo. I know we're getting rid of F&M promos now, but
the Wizards, I can almost assure was like, SCG, here's your playmats. So
sure,
I don't know how much of choice they had in the matter. Who knows?
That's fair. I think that it's more likely that nothing gets done, though. I think that it's more likely that we just live through energy, in spite of the fact that it's reaching those decks that we talk about, man. It's reaching affinity kind of numbers and like Call Blade kind of numbers in terms of the best players all play this deck, and it's making a tournament to enter not fun to enter, and so numbers are suffering as a result. And that is something that we've experienced already within the last year.
I don't know about the numbers, certainly, but I think if they do ban anything, I think it'll just be one card. I think for them to have to do another round of bannings is already a very, humbling thing for them, and they're going to have to eat a lot of crow for this. And I can't imagine they're going to do anything to draw it out or give people, too much ammo. I think it'll be like a quick and dirty, like, okay, fine, here's your one card, let's move on, please. Like, I don't think they're going to do more than one, because that'll really kind of hammer the point home that they screwed up.
I think that kicking a Tune with Aether out of Standard would be very similar to getting Bloodbraid Elf out of Jund in Modern, which is to say that Jund was far and away the most popular deck, and then Bloodbraid was banned. Bloodbraid was banned. Which reminds me, there are a ton of really good cards for Fat Guy B's Cube in this new set. I'll have to look them up in a minute, but there's like Bishop of the Bloodstain and some other good ones. In any case, so it's going to be like that, where Jund was 25 to 30% of the metagame. They got rid of Bloodbraid Elf, and then it became 15 to 20% of the metagame, which is still an astronomical number. Yeah. Like, that's still two people that that are playing the exact same 75 over the course of an 8-round tournament, which is a lot.
I'll have you know, I hear you in my head now. Like, when I hear certain cards, I hear them as the Fat Guy Cube.
Well, that's terrific. I mean, I would note that, I would also note that the attendance at big tournaments in no way reflects essentially the attendance in smaller events like F&M. Like, when Jason Stoneforge were just everywhere all the time, that was where they had the largest open series events of the year.
For sure.
Because in the big events, man, those cards were fantastic, and everybody wants to play with them in tournaments. But at F&M, no one showed up, and that's a big problem. And they have access to those numbers. So, I think if it starts to affect that bottom line, then that's going to be a serious
But it already is, though. I mean, you have Star City Games that rescheduled their only 2 standard opens the first 6 months of the year and made them team constructed events. Like, I mean, it's obvious those events are not filling, and they're being replaced by formats that people actually give a damn about. People come out for Modern. Modern consistently sells out. Even more Legacy. Star City Games just added more Legacy Classics during the year. Like when there's more Legacy, there in the first 6 months of the year, there are more Legacy opens, and by more I mean a whole one in the first 6 months of the year than there are standard opens. Like, that's saying something when these events are being cut down like that. Star City's all about the bottom line, and so they wouldn't make these decisions arbitrarily. And so it's that's clear that standard is not bringing them in.
Well, I mean, and you can tell that from even just over the years, like standard events have not done as well as certain modern events, so they turn them all into team events, and so you go with your friends, and that's super cool. But this, I want to pivot over here to my other rant, which is Modern is a terrible Pro Tour format because Wizards is a subsidiary of Hasbro, and that's a terrible way of showcasing your new product.
Yeah, it's nothing from Rivals of Ixalan is as wide open as Modern is. Nothing from Rivals is going to make an impact. I don't think.
If it does, you broke something. Like, that's
I'm hoping for that.
Well, sure, but
me too. I'm hoping that Blue Red Storm Defaults just becomes the best deck in the format, and that'd be awesome. But it's not going to happen.
It's Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan that will almost guarantee to have no Rivals of Ixalan cards, maybe one in a sideboard or whatever. Right. Like, it's just it's weird. And for me, I felt this was the argument that killed it in the first place. Yes, people will watch, it will get better numbers, but what is your point? What is your goal of spending $250,000 in prizes, probably $1 million total on the event to get everybody there and the whole production and the whole crew and like, and all these plane flights you're buying for everybody? What are you trying to accomplish?
Right. And that's the argument, is the Pro Tour designed to be watched and sell advertising, or to sell Magic cards? Because if it's designed for the first thing, this is fine. But if it's designed to sell Magic cards, this isn't the answer.
Now, I know what they're going to pivot to, and I don't blame them for this, because they're now producing 2 master sets a year. First of all, I think this is a big mistake, and we're going to pivot into something else here in just a second. But being able to have a Modern Pro Tour is for you to be able to say, hey, we make these master sets, they have these cards in them. That's a thing. So I get it from that point in terms of like, this is how Wizards can make money off that event. But they make most of their money off of standard and new cards and drafting and getting people to come and buy the newest and hottest and greatest thing. And to, again, you're calling the event for the new set when you're almost guaranteeing that the new set's not going to be in it. And that's just freaks me out. I just don't understand it. And I'm not saying more Modern's bad. I'm saying that, like, as a business, I don't get it. I don't get the decision.
Yeah. So here are the updates to Fat Guy B's Cube real quick from Rivals VidSong. We've got Evan's Invitational card.
Bombard. We have Buccaneers Bravado. There's Bishop of Binding. And last but not least, I think this is the box promo, which is the box promo Brass's Bounty.
Brass's
Bounty.
All right, so this is going to pivot into Desperate Ravings, because for me, there is an issue that one of the reasons that now there's a whole host of reasons that Iconic Masters failed. And in fact, I've already written a script, and I can't wait to make my next video about literally analyzing what happened. But one of the things that did happen was that this was the first master set where that was not only available in WPN stores. That wasn't WPN exclusive. This type of product, at least in terms of the way that I understood it and interpreted it, was meant to be very much like a From the Vault product, where this is a, hey, you're a friendly local game store, this is a higher priced product, it has a much higher profit margin for both the company of Wizards and yourself, and this is a way that you can, drum up business and make a little bit extra and have this awesome product just for you. Well, that stopped. And now the big box stores, the Targets and the Walmarts and whatnot, had Iconic Masters packs. They had these draft packs. And when that happens, all of a sudden, it doesn't really matter what's online. What Walmart does is what sets the market price of that product. If you're able to go into Walmart and buy a 3-pack for $15 or whatever, or $20, suddenly you're dividing that by 3, and that is the price of the product that you will pay, and you will not pay $1 more because you can just go to Walmart and pick it up there. When trying to reward stores who have gameplay spaces, that's part of the friendly local game stores, to give you a community to interact with and a place to go and enjoy Magic. They don't do that. Walmart don't give a crap about your organized play. Walmart doesn't give a crap about F&M. There's no F&Ms at Target. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Apparently there's Storm at Target, but there's not F&Ms at Target.
Which I think is fantastic.
Which is still silly.
Hashtag
Storm at Walmart. You have to click the same Targets button over and over and over again with your Storm, though.
Well, this was...
Ooh, that joke was so good. Hold on. You did not let that one have enough chance to breathe. That was I'm going to say it again for the folks in the back. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, so but apparently Saffron Olive was tweeting today, says apparently 25th Masters isn't a WPN exclusive. One of the reasons that you can point to and say Iconic Masters was a problem was to have this type of outlet, and no one wants the repeat of Iconic Masters. Let me repeat that. Nobody, and that means from the top to the bottom, from Hasbro to the corner store of your FLGS, wants to see what happened to Iconic Masters, because it was a complete cluster, and it was bad, and it got down to $128 shipped, and that is ridiculous for a master set. It's just ridiculous. It makes
and beyond
no
that,
sense.
I've seen more. Like I'm pretty active on Facebook in a different way that I'm active on Twitter, and that I'm in a different way that I'm active on all the social medias. And I follow a lot more local game stores on Facebook, and I think I've seen more announcements about local game stores and comic book shops closing over the past 3 months than I have any time in the rest of my time on Facebook. And that's endemic here, is that if we're really trying to push organized play to be something that is done through local game stores, you can't do that with one hand and then give Target and Walmart, Iconic Masters and Magic 25 to the big box stores. You can't do it. You can't let them survive that way. It's just not a feasible business model.
And here we are. So this concerns me. And again, we're at the concern stage. Now, they're not going to spoil it 2 months before it goes on sale anymore, because that was stupid. But we're gonna fix that problem. So, all right, about 20 till, and we're going to. I think we're going to have to dive into some depths. We're going to talk about some things. We're going to have to get ourselves back to the drama pool, and it's the magical D word.
Yep.
And
it's not Dredge.
It is not, in fact.
And it's not Duke.
Wrong magical D words.
It's true. So recently, the Judge Program coordinators sent a statement out regarding recent events. And they mentioned that they said, dear Judge community, Judge Program has come under attack on social media for having past members convicted of pedophilia and other sex crimes. The Judge Program, its leaders and its members condemn sexual assault in all forms. Let's be clear here. There's no other side to this issue. There's no, there's no pro-pedo thing happening. This is ridiculous. Let's just make that clear.
It's a straw man.
It's silly. Yeah, and the fact that some people don't necessarily take the bait, the fact that some people may happen to wait and see what organizations would like to do and how they would like to react, doesn't mean you're complicit. It just means you just don't. You're not being sensationalist, and you're not going, there's a fire here, and there's rings of people, which is the silliest crap I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, run out of pizza stores in the Washington, D.C. area.
So Wizards came out with Elaine Chase, and she noted, look, if you find something crazy, here's where you tell us about it. And if you tell us about something crazy, we'll take action. That's how those things work. And so, yeah, there have been legitimate actions already. People added to ban lists, people removed from pages, whatever. And that's not this is cover up. It is them literally reacting the way you were asking them to react. So anyways, we're going to move on here. Where the judge community, again, they had a statement where they said, look, any individual suspected of such action should be reported first and foremost to the proper authorities. The Judge Program is not the police. Just FYI. Now, the idea that you take a list of all the judges and you essentially, quote unquote, dox them. And yes, could you publicly find that information if you were able to gain access through it to sort of public means and whatnot? The idea of all that information was so that for those who are looking for judges can get in contact with some. Not so we could put every person's personal information out to the world and everybody and be like, hey, you should go look up and or harass these people because now you have their information. Whether or not there's people who are younger than 18 on that list, which is its own
That's the
issue.
real issue, in my opinion, of this list being published, is because a lot of the addresses and stuff like that is available like it's in a phone book. Like if you're over the age of 18, this stuff is just available online through public record for a lot of things. The issue comes with publishing publicly non-legal documentation, specifically of minors. And that is step one of things that have gone wrong here, is that there are judges in the Judge Program who are under the age of 18 and it is not legal to publish their private information.
So, and if you go through this statement, they've sort of bowled out the most important points. So, if you're just doing the old skim action, the leak was not the result of unauthorized database access, but rather a violation of the social standards around that stuff. And again, this is basically the list should not be used in this manner, as it were. Some individuals, they note, due to past crimes or legal regulations, are not suitable to be judges. No one wants these people to be judges. It doesn't mean that I'm pro anything if I'm waiting for people to react. Whatever. Sorry, I said that already, but it's really important because that's ridiculous. And the Judge Program must provide a safe environment for judges too. Judges are expected to behave at a higher standard, and the Judge Program must be able to count on members with a high level of integrity, and that's great. And my experience with the judge program has always been amazing, and they work hard. They bust their butt to give you awesome events, and they stress over making your events as good as possible.
Parties.
And they
I went to an after party this past weekend. That was dope. We had a fish with salt and a hammer. They weren't messing around.
So for those who want the TL to DRs,
that was the weirdest non sequitur. Sorry.
Something about parties.
Apparently, if you want a party, you either need cake, alcohol, or a fish with a hammer. Those are the three. Sorry, go ahead.
So for those who are coming in like sort of a little bit more blind than the average Magic player, or those who are just trying to figure out what's going on,
are more blind than those who are participating.
Hey yo,
our friend Rarer Monsters on Reddit has come through once again to those who are confused by what's happening. Well, and I'll just go ahead and say it because here we are.
This is so Rarer Monsters does this every once in a while, where he is really good at concise summaries of things that have happened, particularly in the Magic community. Right,
and I'll try not to do anything. I don't like to sort of take personal pot shots. I'm just trying to sort of lay it out. Jeremy Hamley, a.k.a. Unsleeved Media, a.k.a. MTG Headquarters, a.k.a. the guy who got a lifetime ban for constant, unprovoked, and organized harassment of other community members, claimed to uncover a pedophilia scandal within judging by pointing out past members who have been banned after it came to light that they are sex offenders. It is a common tactic amongst the alt-right to invent pedophilia scandals so they can claim a moral high ground and then accuse enemies of being part of the cover-up when there's no evidence. Or for those who haven't said anything and or reacted quite yet, suddenly they're complicit, for example. Yeah. And they also have the trap of, if you were to say something, they will say, well, why did you wait so long? Why did it take X, Y, and Z to happen? Okay. He uses this as a flimsy pretext to encourage his fans to harass content creators under the guise of asking for responses. And when people refuse to play along, and suddenly, we're getting called names and whatever.
Which you may have seen on our videos, as a matter of fact. It's not so much, every time that it came up on my Twitter timeline or I saw it brought up, it was never anything other than, do you have an opinion on, or what are your thoughts on, asking for a reaction to, as opposed to, any solutions-based answers. It was always, what's your opinion? What's your thoughts? And so that's part of the tactic here.
So when people refused to play along, he doubled down and encouraged more harassment, claiming that silence proved a cover-up. He doxed judges and encouraged harassment on the guise of, quote, calling for accountability. When called on the consequences, he claimed himself to be morally untouchable because he was, quote, concerned about exploited children. And in short, it was peak Jeremy. Expect more such drama in the future as he continues to flail. And I'm not going to go on with the rest because, again, I'm not here to try to drag anybody's name through the mud, even though they will do the same to us. My point is to try to lay out exactly what happened, which is essentially, let's create this controversy. Let's say that people are complicit. Let's say that reactions from wizards are not enough. That let's provide all this information so you can go try to find people. There was apparently a statement was sent out from Channel Fireball noting that they are going to have all of the people who work in their events be searched through the National Sex Offender Database Registry, and that's all good and fine. And again, no one's on the other side of this issue. I want to be real clear. That is
certainly that's an idea that is worth merit of having. If you are hiring contractors, then putting each and every name through that database is something that you can do. These are not, again, judges are not employees, right? So we run into that issue again in the strangest of places of the judge program's relationship with Wizards of the Coast, of them not being employees. We'll keep you updated on that as it develops throughout the year. But it's another one of those things. It's just another added cost that's going to make events more expensive. I'm not saying that it's not worth it. It's certainly a great idea to run this now that it's become a thing that everyone seems to be worried about. But it's not been an issue in the past, and so the stopgaps that have been used in the past appear to be good. And so it just is that this time there was some noise made about it.
So allow me to put it in a different way, okay? There are ways of acting in good faith, and there's ways of acting in bad faith. If your good faith is you've contacted those who have the authority and or ability to make something like this happen, you explain to them, here's some examples, here's some problems, and you're not necessarily showcasing this to the planet. You're saying, hey, I found a thing. Can we do something about it? But when you act in bad faith and you say, I'm going to destroy wizards, I'm going to make them look bad, I'm going to embarrass them as much as I can, and I'm going to use this platform to do so, that's a problem. When you try to say, I want to get an event shut down, instead of contacting the organizer and saying, hey, this is a problem, maybe we could fix this, let's, here's a way to do that. That's the wrong way of doing that. So that's the good
contact
faith
the
versus
proper
the bad
authorities. If you have proof of illegal happenings occurring, go to the proper authorities. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. My friend Adrian, if you're not following her, my friend Dreamtime Drin on Twitter is awesome at this sort of thing. And she had brought up another angle that I don't think a lot of people touched on, in that if this is something you're genuinely concerned about, there are other things you can bring up. For example, you're not seeing anybody ask about the code of conduct. You're not seeing anybody ask about procedures. Are there procedures in place for the staff currently, where if you found a child who had lost their family or got separated somehow, is there a policy in place that will help them? You don't see people asking about lighting. You don't see people asking about security. We've certainly talked about security at events and how really vulnerable we are in these spaces. And so, if you're saying that you're doing it for the children, but you're only leaning on the most sensational, incendiary, anybody who's done any sort of social work can tell you there are the flashier elements, and then there are the nitty gritty. Like sometimes you see, for example, you see benefits, or like we're raising money for a charity, but there's a lot of elbow grease that goes into fighting cancer and fighting AIDS and things of that nature. And so, if you're only going for the most visible, loud, outspoken approach, and you're not going for everything below that on the ladder, you do have to kind of question what your intent is here, because there's a lot of nitty gritty that goes into making things better. And you guys mentioned, the good or bad faith, which is really noteworthy too. I don't know anybody who disagrees. Nobody's saying that, pedophilia is good. Nobody's saying that, they don't want kids to be safe. The only issue here is with the message and how it's being communicated. When you use sensationalist terms like cabals and rings, and they're making it sound like judges are putting kids in sacks like freaking Hamburglar and running out the door. Like, that's not happening. And so, when you sell it like that, when you sell it like, your child could be next, it's like, no, like what? Yeah. And so, there are, I say this a lot on the show, there are ways to do this and have it be fine. And this is just being horribly misplayed from top to bottom. Hit pieces and 5-year-old tweets and GoFundMes, and there's just ways to do this, and none of this is being done correctly. And nobody's disagreeing with the goal, they're disagreeing with the execution and with the message. That's really what the problem is.
All right, so not trying to harp infinite over here. I felt like we've said a thing, we've said our piece.
Please God,
here we are. We're gonna move on.
And to be fair, this is like, we waited until 40 minutes into the episode. It's not like people were. There wasn't a ton of discussion about it this week. This was like the 4th or 5th most popular thing discussed on social media.
Yeah. But
let's go even a step further. Let's lay it all out there. We have internally been talking about this for weeks, and we don't enjoy talking about the nonsense. Oh. We really don't. And so, over the last couple of weeks, we've really agonized over, should we talk about this? Should we not talk about this? And we really don't want to seem like we're just going for the ridiculousness. And so we did agonize over whether we should even acknowledge it. And finally, it got to a point where we had to.
Well, this week it became news. This week it actually, there were actually announcements from Wizards of the Coast and from Channel Fireball that warranted discussion.
Yeah.
Right. And again, my favorite word, zeitgeist. For me, I feel it's important that this is part of it, good or bad. This is not great, but it is happening, and I want to make sure that people, at the very least, try to get an even response of like, here's what's going on. There's nobody on this other side thing. Everyone's pro-check. CFB is responding. The judge program has put something very sensible and reasonable out there. They're not the cops. Report the people via the channels they provide you. Wizards has never been, pro-abuse. It's ridiculous.
Also, the numbers for our show go way up when you put drama in that top line. When you got the word drama in that, when you don't got drama in that line, those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up. You got to put the drama back in Magic.
No.
The Wolf of Drama Street.
That's right.
Okay, so I know, right? So let's move on here to something that is just good old-fashioned feel-good. We're going to take a feel-bad, and we're going to turn it into a feel-good. Because just a few hours ago, there was an awesome post on Reddit called Magic at Risk, or Magic for at-risk youth. And where someone had mentioned, hey, they're trying to get their alternative education middle school students engaged by using Magic as a reward for their hard work and positive behavior. And that has worked phenomenally. And, you know, they just have just whatever cards they have laying around. And these kids, you know, are having an amazing time. They're learning math and they don't even know it. You know, they're learning, you know, reading and or comprehension skills, and they're just not even aware they're learning all this stuff at the same time. And I think that's amazing. And so this is the type of awesome story I was looking for, to just kind of offset the silly, ridiculous, overblown, whatever, and to say, hey, you remember our game does like a lot of awesome things, like super cool, awesome stuff for your community, for kids, for people who are looking for something to do, and instead of going and getting in trouble or doing something stupid, they go play Magic, and they get to have fun with it.
Or they qualify for Pro Tours.
Right. Like
because
Quinn Kiefer
these days,
team card hoarder.
Yeah, Aaron. So let's make me feel as bad as possible about my Magic prowess and how I.
So someone who's a third Evan's age and size qualified for the Pro Tour.
Just a chunk of me, just cut off a chunk, and that qualified for the Pro Tour.
But what he lacks in size and age, he more than makes up for in being much smarter and handsomer than you. Right? Up top. I'm just messing around, man. You know that. This is just us being spikes at the table.
See, all right. So this is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
So I was at Santa Clara this past weekend with Team Card Hoarder. I was there with my big fancy camera and taking pictures. I met a lot of really lovely people. And one of my teams who was there was comprised of Jack Kiefer, his younger brother Quinn Kiefer, and our friend Ely Cassis. Their team did not do well the first day. And so they had to play in the PTQ the following day. And the way that PTQs work, or I think this specific PTQ, I'm not really clear on that, was that you qualify, you go straight to the Pro Tour. There's no RPTQ nonsense, you're just in. And so they signed up for the team sealed PTQ on Sunday, and PTQs at GPs are very difficult. There are a lot of really good players who just didn't quite make day one or day two that then come back the following day. And to do well at that event, you've really got to work. Like, it's a very narrow margin. And it was a very long day, and they ended up just winning the damn thing.
Wow.
And so Jack, who I believe is 15, Quinn just turned 12, and Ely Cassis, who's a veteran everybody loves, but 12 years old. That is if I understand it correctly, the youngest person was 10, and 12 is the second youngest. There was one 12-year-old boy who qualified a while ago.
Yeah.
Quinn is now the second 12-year-old.
Right. He's technically the third youngest, as the other 12-year-old was 12 years and 4 months. And Quinn will be 12 years and 5 months.
Yeah, I'm not getting into the months thing, but still, 12 years.
Way to bring it down to months, dude.
I'm following Mama Kiefer on Facebook and Twitter to keep all my Kiefer updates, so that I can know exactly what the details are. But yeah, spectacular achievement. Yeah,
this will be Quinn's first Pro Tour. Jack was a Pro Tour Ixalan, and just to think about that, like 12 years old, like what? And this is the big 25th anniversary Pro Tour in Minneapolis, and what better Pro Tour to send a kid to the 25th anniversary? And we're so happy for them, and it was really nice to see the outpouring of love from Twitter. The picture that we posted got like 40 retweets and over 300 likes, and just to see people like Cedric and Pascal and people who we love sort of rooting for them just felt really, really good, and it was just a good story for us at Card Hoarder, and we're so proud of them, and you just can't go wrong.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a nice cap to the weekend for Team Card Hoarder at the Santa Clara, to have them do so well, which was, you guys had some issues with, everybody had some issues with the weather. One of the most interesting things about GP Santa Clara for me was what teams ended up being able to make it there, and which Frankenstein's monsters of teams ended up happening as a result of people not being able to get on their plane flights. The team of Cuneo, Rietzel, and Steve Rubin happened as a result of people missing plane flights. And I knew that there were other ones. I think that Noah Walker from Card Hoarder couldn't make it.
Yeah, Noah Walker got snowed in, and then Twitter volunteered Oliver Tomajko, like, just have a world competitor.
National champion,
So big, and so Oliver was nice enough to work with us. He was a very sweet kid. We hung out a little bit at the GP, and nice. I was really happy to have him, because Oliver also came to his success very young, and so I really wanted him to work with Jack and work with Lucas and work with Quinn, and sort of, because I feel like Oliver's kind of where they want to be, nationals, worlds, all of that, and so So I was really hoping they would rub off on each other a little bit and get some of that knowledge and a little bit of that skill. Not that they need it, but just, you know what I'm trying to say. And so, so it worked out really well. Oliver was very gracious, and the whole weekend was very nice. The Pauper event, this was the first GP where Channel Fireball is doing these Pauper events. Over 140 people.
Wow.
Over 140 people.
Okay.
I had many fans come up to me who were fans of ours that were there, because one of the things I ask people who come up to me is, are you playing in the main event? And I had several people that were like, I'm here for Pauper. And I knew that there was a Pauper event going on because I saw vendors with bulk boxes. Normally vendors are pretty good about keeping just rares and uncommons. They're there just peddling the good stuff. Yeah. But I saw several vendors that had the big white boxes with rows, and people were digging. Channel Fireball, because their big store was nearby, they were taking online orders and then having them delivered to the venue. So people were able to buy Pauper decks just at the venue and have them brought to them. And
I was going to ask what the scuttlebutt with the vendors were, because that was going to be the real test.
Oh, they came prepared. They had their bulk boxes, and people were just sort of digging through them. You know, you saw people going through piles, and orders were being brought, and huge demand. And so I will be in Indianapolis next weekend. Right. And so I'm anxious to see if those numbers stay the same, or if they go bigger or go smaller.
That's going to be interesting to see, because of this Pauper tour that the professor is on. That they're putting on all the billboards have the professor and his big grinning face. Pauper time, everybody. Santa Clara is one thing that you can order it online and get the store to deliver it right to you. That's cool. Indianapolis, still in the United States, we can still bring a good amount of Pauper supplies. The next one in that line is London, where the professor's that's going to be interesting to me to see if Pauper holds up under the strain of intercontinental travel. And I don't doubt that it will. But the dealers, that's the fascinating part to me, is will the dealers in Europe be able to keep up with the demand?
Well, what I would note from, and this just kind of sort of from a store perspective, right? From a vendor perspective, we were at Santa Clara. We're going to be at other GPs, you know, throughout the year, of course. and what I would note is that it's never bad for whether it's the economy of Magic, the economy of the friendly local game store, whether you're online or offline, if you're able to take cards that don't sell and then sell them, that's great. Even if they're just commons can be worth $1 to $5 or whatever, depending on the rate, or if you want to get them foil or whatever. Like, that's a thing. Pauper is an amazing format. I absolutely love it. I've streamed it plenty. I've played it lots. It's super cool and diverse, and just, you know, for the price of whatever, you know, for the price of a cup of coffee, you too can have a Pauper deck, because it just doesn't take that much.
For the price of half of a mana base in Modern, you too can have a Pauper deck.
I think I found my deck, you guys. Did I tell you?
I saw that. You're going to play basically the equivalent of Oops All Spells for Pauper.
Oh my god. So everybody's been sending me Pauper lists, because I can't get it up for Pauper. I try, and I just can't do it. And people have sent me graveyard decks, they've sent me reanimator decks, they've sent me Dredric. Nothing has worked. I was visiting some streams last night, and there was a young man who was streaming Pauper, and he was playing a list called One Land Spy.
Okay.
It's broken and inconsistent, which means, of course, I love it. And basically, it revolves around Lotus Petal, Simian Spirit Guide. You cheat out a Balustrade Spy, and then you win with, like, Haunting Misery.
Right. Evan, I'll give you $1 if you can tell me what Haunting Misery does.
And there's, like, Tinder Walls and Lotus Petals and Gataxian Probes. It's very Belcher-ish. It's incredibly inconsistent. Apparently, it's not very good right now because they've been printing those gain 1 life tap lands at common. So you can only do so much damage or drain so much life. But damn it, I took one look at this and I was like, why did no one tell me about this? And so I'm Metamorphose. I'm in.
I will happily admit I had to look it up. Haunting Misery is 2 black and a generic mana, a common sorcery from Worldwake that says remove X creature cards in your graveyard from the game, Haunting Misery deals X damage to target player.
Did it get reprinted in Worldwake?
Yeah, what's the original?
No.
Isn't it one of
the original was Weatherlight.
Yes.
No, that's it. Weatherlight.
No, well, it's a Weatherlight card, not Worldwake.
Yeah,
you said Worldwake.
Unless it's a different card we're thinking about.
No, Haunting Misery is only in Weatherlight.
It's only in Weatherlight.
It may have just been because you saw a W
but
word.
The deck is hilarious.
The deck is absolutely hilarious and crazy and weird. And I don't really understand.
And it also loses the Relic of Progenitus, which also means I love it.
There you go. So we're going to move on here to some splash damage, because in something that I felt was very sort of even tangential to MTG, was an article on Medium by Morgan Jaffet, who talked about something really interesting. A lot of people, particularly game developers, he was talking about from the video game side, that the topic every game dev is talking about behind closed doors is the cost of doing business. Basically, it turns out that a lot of people feel like you have the ability and or the right to harass the piss out of people who make things when you don't like the things that they made or how they made them. And to be called horrible names over and over, to be accused of, trying to rip people off or whatever, or this, this blah, blah, blah is a crap SJW game, blah, 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 from these people who are just little tiny studios who are just trying to do the best they can to have small games that don't have every single feature under the sun, that they are being called, stupid F-bombs and blah, 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 and you're worth nothing more than a pube hair. I mean, like, come on, guys, this is ridiculous. And I mean, just reading stuff. And it's weird because the big thing feels like, and people have created, the big thing is that people feel like they're kind of entitled to do so, but people have created entire brands. I mean, the Angry Joe Show, which is, I think, legitimately got some really funny points and and really, really cute sort of setups that they do. But I've never really put it into that prism of like they're really just kind of attacking these people who are trying to make the coolest, best games they can, whether it's corporate influence that doesn't let them change things, or whether it's just they had this design idea and you didn't like it. The idea that you're able to just kind of crap on them and profit is something that just spills over into the world of Twitter, where people just throw out expos at you. And that's just, again, the cost of doing business. And this is where you can look at it from the Magic side, which is, Christine Sprankle, she's just, she's a cosplayer. She's out there for me to judge, and it is the cost of her doing this that she has to take whatever it is I fling at her.
Helene? Yeah. Oh my God! I would
for God's
never
sake.
we've had our issues with the game, but I would never talk to Helene the way that I saw people talking to her. And the fact that she took it as long as she did, it's my understanding that they can't just. I mean, I joke about how frequently I hit my block button and my mute button, but for the most part, they have to just take it essentially. And so I'll never forget just going through the replies to things, and I was horrified. I would never talk to someone that way, much less the director of organized play. Like, how dare you?
Yeah, you get worn down. It's very tough. It's and in the article it says that it's hardest on the indie developers, which the equivalent for that in Magic would be the content creators like Christine, like Wedge, like us, because we run our own social media. Right? There's no person there's no people that call your people. Like, I am my people. This is it. This is Rubin Industries population 1, right? This is all there. And so for the indie games and the smaller market money makers of the video creators, the YouTubers, the cosplayers, the article writers, they're on the first line of receiving that. So as soon as the 2.5 inch by 5 inch box that contains all of the world's information shining a bright light into your eyes is telling them telling me that I'm worthless garbage, that's going directly from them into my brain. And there's no person in between, much less someone like Helene, who is that wall, who is the Watchers defending us against the Night Walkers from the north, who has to take the brunt of all of the company's bad mouthing. And day after day, month after month, year after year, for 2 decades to be on the front lines of that, obviously that's going to wear you down. Like the waves lapping at the base of a mountain, it's going to erode you regardless of how strong your foundation is. And Helene is an extremely strong woman, but you can only take so much before you go nuts about it. And I read this article, and it was not exactly directed towards us, towards me, towards Magic, towards Magic Mike's, whatever. But I saw a lot of myself in this article, and it was really well put together by the article's author, Morgan Jaffet.
And to be clear, and I just want to stress something, whenever we bring up things like this, I just want to be really clear. And I've said this before, we are fine with people disagreeing with us. We are fine with people not liking, one of us, or we're fine with people not liking the decisions that Wizards makes. This isn't to say that like you have to like everything we do, or that you even have to like us, or even like the game, or like the decisions that are being made. But Patrick Sullivan's a really good example. Patrick Sullivan had a lot of thoughts about what he thinks is an egregious mistake in Magic, and instead of angrily tweeting at people and sending them gifts, he laid out a reasonable explanation that is probably going to go over a lot better than just sending a bunch of memes at Matt Tabak or whoever. And that's how you do it. We're not saying that we're looking for echo chambers or safe spaces or anything. We're just saying to tailor it better, to word it better, and actually help us. I had a number of people this weekend who came up to me at the GP and said, you know what, I noticed that you guys really worked on your chemistry, and that's great. And that to me made us want to continue to be better, as opposed to a random YouTube commenter who says, I hate all of you. What are we supposed to do with that? Like, what can we get out of that? What can we do for you exactly? And so, when you see an article like this, it really illustrates the perfect storm of how we got here. You have this sort of culture of telling it like it is, and then sending people, riling these people up, enraging them, and then you send them to platforms that have no idea how to moderate them.
Sure.
We're seeing that with YouTube right now, with this Logan Paul fallout, and now this Shane Dawson fellow. And you have these platforms that don't know how to deal with abuse, don't know how to deal with harassment, don't know how to deal with crappy behavior, and so people run around unchecked, and eventually it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and then eventually it boils over and people leave and people get hurt. And I really related to that sort of cycle of how really we got here, because we've sort of seen it firsthand, and it didn't just happen. This has been years in the making, and those of us who've been in the thick of it can see the cycle kind of happening, and it's unfortunate.
Let me quote this certain tweet. Now he blacked out whoever it was from, but think about what's been going on. Someone said, if I quit game dev, it won't be because of money or lack of love for the craft. It'll be because of the attitude of the vocal 0.1% of gamers who nobody will moderate. Does that sound familiar at all? Doesn't take a huge percentage to create an environment where you become too unhappy to try to do what you're doing.
Yeah, and particularly for folks who are making, small indie games, they pour their lives into making these little games. Not all of them are going to end up as popular and successful as Cuphead. Some of these folks are going to toil for years, better part of half of a decade, trying to make a game, and then you release it, and then people are going to take a crap on it, regardless of whether they're playing it or not. Now, if you get a negative comment on your Steam, that's one thing. But if you get it from some nameless, faceless person on Twitter, that's a different thing. But it still has an emotional impact on you. Just because there's someone somewhere either actively typing it or creating something that will type it for them that has no other purpose except for to make game developers and people in gaming, and again, in just like regular retail. Right? You've been behind the lady with the expired coupon who's yelling at the dude at the register for not taking the expired coupon. It happens everywhere, where people just don't treat other people like people for no particular reason whatsoever.
Crazy. So I felt it was important to bring it up. We could talk about it, sort of the corollaries I thought were there, which was nice.
Yeah.
But we got to turn the corner to the finisher.
Ooh, we made
First, we have our giveaway. I almost forgot. I was right there. I didn't know. I picked a winner already. I'm not even like
You'd already forgotten the giveaway once this week. We already filled in that box.
See, there you go. I didn't need to double up. I needed to give you 2 chances.
Yeah.
But congratulations to Ian H. from McHenry, Illinois, who is going to get a free playmat and awesome metal token from the Cool Stuff Games pre-release pack.
I think I know who that is.
Yeah?
Nice.
Yeah, McHenry, Illinois. I know an ENH from I see you.
Oh.
Hashtag Greg.
That's terrific.
Yeah, that playmat, by the way, might be a collector's item. That Andre Garcia is a talented boy.
He's a good one, and it's great to work with him.
If he gets snapped up by some bigger publishing house, I wouldn't be too surprised.
And thank you everyone for congratulating me for remembering, because I need that.
Yeah, well done.
So now that we can officially, and I'll be in contact with you, Ian, and I'll go ahead and make sure you get your prize and stuff. But this week, Wizards of the Coast released Planeshift Ixalan, allowing players to play Dungeons & Dragons in the Magic the Gathering world of pirates, vampires, merfolk, and the Sun Empire. But it begs the question, Which world in the Magic Multiverse would you most like R&D to take a trip to next, Aaron?
Well, my number one choice is obviously Ravnica, partially because a city plane is my aesthetic, and partially for hashtag Trans Guild Promenade. Love it.
I like it.
But mostly because it's the home plane of Dredge. And if there's one thing that you know about Aaron Campbell, I put the dead in dedication.
Wow. That's pretty good. I like that one. Ruben?
Well, being an avid dungeon delver myself, the plane that I think they should make into a D&D world next is the world of Unstable. It makes the most sense to me. I mean, there's already lots of dice rolling. There's tons of fun NPCs, which are non-player characters, to interact with, like Dr. Julius Jumblemorph and Baron von Count. And of course, most importantly, the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons reference in Magic the Gathering history, included right there in the set, Entirely Normal Armchair.
Yes.
Oh,
because that's a what? What's the creature
Which is a
type?
mimic. It's a mimic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, typically chairs that turn into little reacher grabbers that'll bite you.
Reacher grabbers. Well, I think there's only one real answer here, and I can't believe y'all have included into the fact that the most popular plane of all time, the home of Magic's most popular characters, and the most powerful and popular spells, call home. That's right. I'm looking forward to Plane Shift Homelands, y'all. I need more Ogrolthra in my life. Yes. I need the Willows. I need the Ishan Shades.
Yep.
Give it to me.
On Hava.
Aaron is so relentless. And
I really, really am.
Right. That one and the other one. See, it works both ways. But that ends another episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Yeah, buddy. And we're going to go to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Brusser, you guys for watching and or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Visit our website at MagicMicsPodcast.com. That exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv/MagicMics, on Twitter at MagicMicsCast, on Reddit at Reddit.com/r/MagicMics, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMics. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.